At my sister's 300-guest wedding, Mom raised her glass and asked, "When's your turn?" And that's when my 7-year-old daughter, the one no one knew about, walked out holding her mother's hand. I never imagined myself walking back into this town again. 7 years is a long time to stay away, long enough for people to forget your face, long enough for memories to turn blurry, but not long enough for the pain to fade. My sister's wedding was the only reason I returned. A massive event with 300 guests, expensive decorations, a perfect stage, and a family desperate to show the world that everything was flawless. Everything except me. I arrived late, half hoping no one would notice. The cold evening air brushed against my skin as I stepped through the entrance. The lights were too bright, the music too loud, the laughter too forced. People danced as if their lives were perfect, as if nothing in the world could hurt them. I felt like a stranger in my own family celebration. As I walked in, the smell of fresh flowers mixed with the scent of perfume and food. My sister stood on the stage, glowing in her heavy bridal dress. Cameras flashed around her. My mother moved from table to table, greeting guests with a practiced smile. And then, everything stopped. Because that's when I saw her. Lena. She stood near the garden entrance, arranging a row of white lilies on a small table. Her fingers moved gently, carefully adjusting each flower as if the world around her didn't exist. I froze. Time didn't slow down, it simply stopped. Her hair was tied loosely, a few strands falling around her face. The soft golden lights from the garden lanterns touched her skin, giving her an almost unreal glow. She wasn't dressed up like everyone else. She wasn't trying to impress anyone. She looked simple, tired, and heartbreakingly beautiful. And she hadn't seen me yet. My breath caught in my throat. My legs felt heavy, as if my past had wrapped chains around them. 7 years. 7 years without seeing the woman I once thought I'd marry. I took a step forward, then another, unsure whether to run or speak or disappear again. Then she lifted her head. Our eyes met. Her expression froze instantly, just like mine. Her hand slipped off a flower, her body going still as a stone. My chest tightened. The noise of the wedding, the music, laughter, clinking glasses, all faded into a dull hum. It felt like only the two of us existed in the entire place. Her lips parted slightly, as if she wanted to say something but couldn't decide where to begin. I forced out a small breath. "Hi," I whispered. Her throat moved as she swallowed. She nodded slowly. "You came back." Her voice was soft, almost fragile. Not angry, not warm, just tired, like someone who had carried too many heavy days alone. We stood there, staring at each other with years of unsaid words trapped between us. I didn't know what to say. I didn't know if I deserved to say anything. She looked away first. "I didn't think you'd show up tonight," she murmured, adjusting a flower that didn't need adjusting. "Well, it's my sister's wedding," I replied awkwardly. She let out a small, breathless laugh, not happy, not amused, just sad. "Right. Of course." Silence settled again. Heavy, full, uncomfortable. I wanted to tell her she looked beautiful. I wanted to say I'd missed her every single day since I left, but the words stayed trapped in my throat. Instead I said the first thing that came to mind. "Your flowers are still the best in town." Her hand stopped moving. She took a long breath, eyes fixed on the lilies. "You remember that?" she asked quietly. How could I forget? I said, "You used to spend hours choosing flowers for everything, even for things that didn't matter." She gave me a weak smile, a smile that hurt more than any anger she could have thrown at me. "Back then," she said softly, "everything mattered." There it was, a tiny crack in her voice, a hint of the past neither of us had healed from. I shifted my weight, unsure whether to walk closer or stay where I was. How have you been?" I asked. She finally turned to face me again. Her eyes, once bright and full of dreams, looked different now. Older, deeper, as if life had carved something into them. "I'm fine," she said. "Just busy." It was a lie. I could hear it. I could see it. But I didn't call her out on it. Not tonight. She wiped her hands on her dress, as if she needed something to do, then stepped back from the table. "You should go inside," she said softly. "Your family is probably waiting. They don't even know I'm here." Her eyebrows lifted. "That sounds about right." Another small sting. But I couldn't deny it, she wasn't wrong. I wanted to ask 1,000 questions. Where had she been all these years? Was she happy? Had she moved on? Did she hate me? But I didn't ask any of them. Instead, I just stood there like an idiot, staring at her, feeling everything I thought I'd buried years ago rise up inside me. She turned away again, picking up another flower, pretending to be busy. A cool breeze moved through the garden, lifting her hair gently. Somewhere behind us, guests cheered as someone made a toast. The faint sound of clapping echoed around us. But in that small corner of the garden, time still felt broken. "I'm not here to make things complicated," I said quietly. She didn't look at me. "You never mean to," she whispered. "But somehow, you always do." Those words hit deep. They were simple, but they were true. I opened my mouth to respond, but she lifted her hand slightly, a silent request to stop. "Not tonight," she said, voice trembling just a little. "This isn't the night for old conversations." Maybe she was right. Maybe it was too late to talk about the past. Maybe she didn't owe me anything anymore. But as I watched her, something inside me twisted, a feeling I didn't want to admit. A feeling I thought I'd left behind the night I walked away from her. Regret. Real, painful regret. "I'm glad you're here, Lena," I said softly. She didn't answer. She didn't need to. The sadness in her eyes said enough. As I walked back toward the hall, I felt her gaze on my back. Not warm. Not loving. Just unfinished. A chapter we both thought was over, but clearly wasn't. I didn't know then that tonight would change everything. I didn't know she was hiding a truth heavy enough to break a man. All I knew was this. 7 years ago, I left without listening. Tonight, the past had finally found me again. And it was only just beginning. The wedding grew louder as the night went on. Music thumped through the floors, guests laughed, and every corner of the hall was filled with bright lights and dancing. But none of that mattered to me. My eyes kept drifting toward the garden, toward her. Lena didn't return inside after our earlier conversation. She slipped out quietly, almost unnoticed, like she had learned how to make herself invisible in a crowd full of people who never cared to see her. Something inside me refused to leave her alone. Hours had passed since we last spoke, yet the memory of her voice, her eyes, her sadness stayed with me like a weight on my chest. So I went looking for her. The night air outside was cooler now. The noise of the wedding faded into a distant echo as I walked toward the back of the reception hall. The ground smelled like wet grass and scattered flower petals. Lanterns swayed softly in the breeze, their dim lights casting slow-moving shadows on the old wooden fence behind the property. And there she was, sitting alone on the long wooden plank that ran along the fence, the same spot where we used to sit together years ago. The same fence where, as teenagers, we carved our initials and promised dreams we thought would never break. Her back was slightly hunched, her arms wrapped around herself for warmth. She stared out into the dark open field beyond the fence, lost in a world that had nothing to do with the wedding happening just a few feet away. I approached slowly, not wanting to startle her. She didn't turn around. She didn't have to. She knew it was me from the sound of my footsteps. "Don't," she whispered before I even reached her. Her voice was tired, strained. "Not tonight. Please." I stopped beside her. "I just want to talk." She let out a small, humorless laugh, the kind that hurts to hear. "That's new," she said softly. "You didn't want to talk when you left." Her words sliced through me. I felt them in my stomach, deep and sharp. I slowly sat down beside her. The wood felt cold beneath me, rough from years of weather and neglect. A part of me wondered if our carved initials were still there beneath the chipped paint. I left because... She didn't let me finish. "No," she said sharply. "Don't rewrite the story. Don't make yourself look better." She turned her face toward me, her eyes glistening with emotions she'd tried hard to hide. "You promised forever. Then you disappeared." My jaw tightened. I didn't have an excuse. Every explanation I'd prepared over the years suddenly felt useless, childish. She was right. I had left. I had walked away without letting her finish a sentence that night. "I thought you moved on," I said quietly. "Well," she murmured, her voice softening in a tired, defeated way. "Sometimes life forces you to move on, even if you don't want to." A long silence settled between us. The wind picked up slightly, brushing strands of her hair across her face. She tucked them behind her ear with a shaky hand. In the soft glow of the lanterns, I could see how much had changed. She wasn't the same girl I knew. She looked older, but not because of age, because of life, because of something heavy she carried alone. I watched her stare at the ground, her fingers slowly tightening around the hem of her dress. "You're not okay," I said gently. She gave a small, broken smile. "Everyone has their own problems." "That's not an answer." "It's the only one I have." Another silence. I could hear faint laughter from the wedding hall. Glasses clinking. Someone shouting joyfully. The celebration felt miles away from the quiet ache sitting beside me. I leaned forward, elbows on my knees. "What happened to you, Lena?" I asked softly. She shook her head quickly. "Nothing." It was a lie. Her voice cracked just slightly, just enough for someone who knew her once to hear the truth beneath it. "You can talk to me," I whispered. "You tried to, remember? 7 years ago. You said there was something I should know." She stiffened immediately. Her breath hitched. Her shoulders tensed. Her hands clenched. She remembered that night too. The last night. The night I walked away while she cried. The night she said, "There's something I should tell you." And I didn't stay long enough to hear it. "You walked out before I could say anything," she said, her voice barely above a whisper. "I was angry," I said. "And scared." "Of what?" she asked bitterly. "Of loving someone? Of being wrong? Of losing control?" Her honesty hurt because it was true, but she softened a little, as if she felt guilty for being harsh. She took a slow breath, her voice quieter. "It doesn't matter now," she whispered. "It's too late." "I don't believe that." "You should," she said, finally looking directly at me. "Some things, once broken, can't be fixed." Her eyes were full of secrets, secrets she was tired of holding, secrets she didn't want to share with me. Maybe because she didn't want to trust me again. She looked toward the hall, her gaze flicking over the glowing windows. She looked almost afraid. "Why do you keep watching the wedding?" I asked. She quickly wiped her cheek, pretending it was just the wind. "It's nothing." "You're lying." "I'm not." "Then why are you shaking?" She pulled her hands into her lap as if she could hide the trembling. The tension between us grew thicker, heavier. Not anger. Not hate. Just unfinished pain. She took a deep breath, her voice barely steady. "You shouldn't be here with me," she whispered. "Your family already doesn't like me. If they see." "I don't care." She laughed softly, shaking her head. "You always say that. And then you always leave." This time, I didn't argue. I didn't defend myself. Because she wasn't wrong. Instead, I asked the only question that mattered in that moment. "What are you hiding, Lena?" Her body froze. Her breath caught. For a second, she didn't move at all. I had never seen her so still, so frightened, so vulnerable. She looked away, blinking fast. "I can't do this," she whispered. "Not tonight. Not here." "Tell me," I begged quietly. "What happened 7 years ago? What did you want to tell me that night?" Her voice broke. "It won't change anything now," she said. "It will," I whispered. "For me." She closed her eyes tightly, as if holding back years of tears. When she finally spoke again, her voice was almost too soft to hear. "You're not ready for the truth." She stood up slowly, wiping her dress, her hands still trembling. "Enjoy the wedding," she whispered. "Pretend everything is fine." Then she walked away, back toward the lights, the noise, the crowd, without waiting for me to follow. I sat there alone, staring at the empty spot where she had been. Everything about her was wrong. Everything about tonight felt like a warning. She was hiding something big, something that had lived inside her for years. And whatever it was going to tear my world apart. Dinner was about to begin, and the giant hall buzzed with excitement. People moved from table to table, taking pictures, sharing stories, pretending the night was nothing but perfect. My sister stood on the stage with her husband, glowing with happiness. My mother glided through the room, greeting guests like royalty. But I wasn't thinking about the wedding. I wasn't thinking about my family either. All I could think about was Lena, her shaking hands, her trembling voice, her eyes full of secrets she refused to share. The truth sat like a stone inside my chest. Every breath felt heavier than the last. I stood near the edge of the hall, almost hidden behind a pillar. I kept scanning the room, looking for her. She stood near the far end, close to the exit, as if she were ready to run at any moment. She held a tray of leftover flowers, pretending to work, but I could tell she wasn't really seeing anything in front of her. Then the microphone clicked. My mother walked to the center of the stage, her glass raised high. The hall went silent instantly. "Thank you all for joining us tonight," she said, her voice bright and full of pride. Everyone clapped. Cameras pointed at her. She loved moments like these, moments where the world had no choice but to look at her. "And now," she continued, "I'd like to say something special." My stomach tightened. I already knew this was not going to be good. She smiled in my direction, the kind of smile that hid poison behind perfect teeth. "Since we are celebrating love tonight," she said loudly, "I have a question for my son." A few murmurs rose from the guests. People turned toward me. My heart hammered in my chest. My mother raised her glass even higher. "So," she said with a playful tone that wasn't playful at all, "when's your turn?" Laughter erupted around the hall. People clapped. Some even whistled. I felt my throat tighten. My face burned. My hands curled into fists without me noticing. And across the room, I saw Lena freeze. Her face turned pale, her body stiff. She looked like she wanted to disappear. My mother wasn't done. "Honestly," she said to the room, "we are all waiting. He's not getting any younger." More laughter. But every word hit me like a slap. Not because she teased me, she had done that all my life. Not because of the pressure, I was used to that too. No, it hurt because I saw Lena watching, her heart breaking all over again. I couldn't stay still. I couldn't pretend anymore. So I walked. Not toward my mother. Not toward my table. Toward Lena. The hall fell quieter with each step I took. People turned. Some whispered. My mother's smile dropped slowly, confused, annoyed. By the time I reached Lena, she had put the flower tray down and stepped back, as if she expected me to scold her or ask her to leave. "Don't," she whispered. "Please, don't do this. Not here." But I couldn't stop. I had spent 7 years running from her. Tonight, my feet refused to run anymore. Her eyes glistened with fear. Her hand shook. I opened my mouth to speak, but before I could, something small tugged the hem of her dress. We both looked down. A little girl stood beside her. Big, round eyes. Soft curls. A quiet, confused expression on her tiny face. She looked up at me, and I saw my own eyes staring back. Everything inside me stopped. The world, the music, the lights, all turned silent. My body went numb. My breath left me. I knelt slowly, too stunned to think. How old is she?" I whispered. Lena's lips trembled. Her voice cracked. 7, she said. "She's 7. It felt like the ground slipped from under me. 7. 7 years. The exact number of years since I left her. Since the night she tried to tell me something and I walked away. My heart broke in a way I didn't know was possible. My daughter. My child. My blood. The little girl didn't understand. She simply looked between us with innocent eyes, unaware that her existence had just shattered me. My mother rushed toward us, her heels clicking furiously. "What is this?" she snapped loudly. "Who is that child?" People gathered. Every eye in the hall was on us. Lena took a step back, panic on her face. "I didn't want this," she whispered. "I didn't want a scene. I didn't want to ruin your life." I stood up slowly, facing her, facing the truth I had run from for years. "You didn't ruin my life," I said, my voice breaking. "I ruined it myself." My mother reached us, her expression twisted with anger and disbelief. "You knew about this?" she demanded. "No," I said sharply. "I didn't know anything, because I didn't stay long enough to listen." Gasps spread through the crowd. My mother looked embarrassed, not sad, not guilty, just angry that the image of a perfect family was cracking in front of 300 guests. I looked at Lena again. Her tears flowed silently. You should have told us, my mother snapped. Lena nodded slowly, defeated. I tried, she whispered. Your family made it very clear they didn't want me around. They said I wasn't enough. Her voice broke. So I chose to leave. For her. My mother opened her mouth again, but I had no interest in hearing her excuses, lies, or pride-filled denial. For the first time in my life, I didn't care what she wanted. I reached out and took my daughter's tiny hand. Her small fingers wrapped around mine without fear, without hesitation, like she had been waiting her whole life to do it. I turned to the 300 guests watching with hungry curiosity and judgment. People expected me to deny it, to panic, to walk away again. But I didn't. Instead, I spoke clearly, my voice carrying across the hall. The only thing that ruined my life was trusting my family instead of the woman who loved me. The hall went dead silent. My mother's face drained of color. Someone gasped loudly near the front row. Lena stared at me with wide, tear-filled eyes, shocked, trembling, not believing what she was hearing. I squeezed my daughter's hand gently. This, I said softly, is my turn. I looked at Lena. I'm not leaving this time. For the first time that night, I saw a flicker of hope in her eyes. Not forgiveness. Not yet. But the smallest spark that said maybe, just maybe, everything wasn't lost. I walked out of the wedding hall slowly, holding the hands of the only two people who had ever truly cared for me. My daughter on one side, and beside her, the woman I should never have abandoned. Behind us, the celebration continued without meaning. The lights stayed bright. The music played on. But none of it mattered anymore. Because after 7 years of mistakes, silence, fear, and running, I had finally chosen right. Final line. This time, I didn't leave, I chose them.